NASA is making some big changes to the Artemis program. In a briefing on Friday, February 27th, NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman announced that the Artemis III mission will no longer be a moon landing, and the new mission will be brought forward from launching in 2028 to 2027.
We're essentially going to pull in Artemis III to launch in 2027 with a revised mission profile. So instead of going directly to a lunar landing, we will endeavor to rendezvous in low Earth orbit with one or both of our lunar landers, test out integrated operations between Orion and the landers, ECLSS systems, even to the extent possible, if we can get up development components of our XEVA suits to test out vehicle interfaces, even just getting an astronaut in a suit in microgravity, we can learn a lot with the idea that we should be learning.
The shift in what Artemis III will look like was coupled with an announcement of what Isaacman calls a standardization of the Space Launch System moon rocket, or a, quote, near Block 1 configuration, i.e., one version of the rocket's upper stage that will persist into the future, beginning with the fourth flight of the Artemis program.
So the idea is we want to reduce complexity to the greatest extent possible. We want to accelerate manufacturing, pull in the hardware, and increase launch rate, which obviously has a direct safety consideration to it as well. You get into a good rhythm, launching great frequency, you get that muscle memory.
The concern with safety was brought up in the recently released annual report from the Aerospace Safety Advisory Panel, ASAP for short. ASAP Chair Susan Helms, a retired Air Force Lieutenant General, notes that the panel, quote, has repeatedly raised concern regarding Artemis III and subsequent Artemis mission risk postures. The ASAP also raised concerns with the amount of technical objectives originally built into the Artemis III mission. It called for a more balanced and spread out approach, akin to how NASA laid out the Apollo program.
I think what we're doing is directly in line with what ASAP asked us to do. I mean, look, just zooming out here, I think it should be incredibly obvious. You don't go from one uncrewed launch of Orion and SLS, wait 3 years, go around the moon, wait 3 years, and land on it. That's what our ASAP committee took issue with. That's what we've acknowledged inside the leadership of NASA. NASA's been working on these plans knowing this is not the right approach. There has to be a better way in line with our history on it.
One other point that was left unaddressed during the February 27th panel discussion concerns SpaceX's Starship rocket, the first commercial lunar lander selected in 2021 to ferry humans to the moon's south pole. This falls under NASA's Human Landing System program, or HLS for short. The ASAP raised concerns with SpaceX's delayed rollout of its Starship version 3 rocket. At one point, aiming to fly in 2025, Starship version 3 will now launch no earlier than the early spring timeframe on a suborbital mission. The timing of the first orbital launch of Starship version 3 is still up in the air, but SpaceX says it's aiming for that milestone sometime later this year. That version of the launch vehicle is needed for the on-orbit propellant transfer work that will take a lunar lander version of the rocket to the moon. The development and test progress necessary for a version of Starship that has not yet flown in time to support a human landing mission within the next few years appears daunting and, to the panel, probably not achievable, the ASAP wrote in its report. Beyond this, the physics of landing a 6-to-1 height-to-width ratio vehicle on the uneven, poorly lit polar lunar surface seems questionable at best. The other HLS provider, Blue Origin, is working on its lander called Blue Moon Mark II. The company has a smaller cargo lander called Blue Moon Mark I that is designed to fly later this year and will help validate some of the systems needed for the crewed lander. At NASA's request, both Blue Origin and SpaceX submitted proposals that would accelerate the opportunity for earlier moon landings. Isaacman and the other panelists declined to go into detail on these proposals during the February 27th news briefing. However, the administrator did say that one of the most complex portions of the landing missions from both companies, on-orbit propellant transfer, may not be a part of this new low Earth orbit version of the Artemis III mission.
Our HLS providers, they've both, I think, very publicly submitted proposals for their acceleration strategy that does take down some of the, the technical risk associated with the proposal. And we've said publicly that we support both in this regard. I don't think that what you're referring to, like on-orbit prop transfer, is necessarily going to be required for the demonstration that we are imagining for Artemis III. But we haven't fully, we are very early in mission design here. We all have arrived at the point that this is really the only pathway in order to achieve success with a lunar landing within the timeframes that we are targeting. But I think part of the reason to do this in low Earth orbit is it does not necessarily require what both HLS providers will eventually necessitate, which is either lots of launches or on-orbit prop transfer to get their vehicles to the moon.
In addition to the new HLS docking demonstration in low Earth orbit, NASA is also looking at bringing down the moon landing risk by flying Axiom Space's spacesuits on board Orion during this redesigned Artemis III mission.
If we can't make that timeline with suits, we have other opportunities to get them up to International Space Station, but we do consider that a priority, which then sets up for Artemis 4 and 5 potentially in 2028. We're not necessarily committing to launching 2 missions in 2028. We want to have the opportunity to be able to do that.
During an update from Axiom Space on February 12th, CEO Jonathan Surton says the AXEMU suit is progressing towards delivery to NASA in 2027.
AXEMU is currently in the critical design phase, planning to close out CDR later this year. We're also beginning a variety of qualification tests this year. We've completed the first AXEMU dual suit run in NASA's Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory, and we continue to execute regular task capability assessments in the NBL.
One of the biggest reasons for all of this change is the historically low flight rate of the Artemis program. Isaacman pointed to the stark contrast between Artemis and NASA's previous human spaceflight endeavors: Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, and Shuttle. The administrator says it's this low flight cadence that is the driver of the repeated issues that have been seen during the Artemis II pre-launch campaign, mirroring those from Artemis I, namely hydrogen leaks during the first wet dress rehearsal tanking test on February 2nd, and a helium flow problem seen at the launch pad following the second fueling demonstration on February 19th.
Launching a rocket as important and as complex as SLS every 3 years is not a path to success. A component of that is when you are launching every 3 years, your skills atrophy. You lose muscle memory. We've got a lot of really talented folks that have been working hard on the Artemis II campaign, and whether they're going to want to stick around for 3 more years after this mission is complete is a question mark. This is just not the right pathway forward.
After the discovery of the helium flow problem, NASA spent the better part of Wednesday, February 25th, rolling the rocket back to the vehicle assembly building. The helium anomaly is related to the interim cryogenic propulsion stage, or ICPS, the upper stage of the 322-foot tall rocket. The SLS rocket finished arriving here inside the vehicle assembly building shortly after 8 p.m. Wednesday night. Teams on the third shift then got quickly into work getting all these platforms in place so that they can assess the issue with the helium flow on the ICPS as quickly as possible. 3 ICPSs, built by United Launch Alliance, are designed to be used on the first 3 missions of the Artemis program. That will not change. However, the original plan was then to transition from using the ICPS to the much larger exploration upper stage, beginning with the Artemis IV mission. That is now off the table, but NASA leaders declined to go into details on Friday.
We're not talking about contractual issues. We're not going to talk about that. We have the full support of our industry partners to make sure we standardize the configuration and do the right thing. So that's just we'll just leave it at that. How we're going to do this, in terms of the hardware we have available, I think it's also important to recognize. I mean, we didn't just decide to do this today without making sure we assess the inventory of the hardware that we have available and the program. We've been talking about this as the boss said in the program for a while. Just to make sure, because we understand the risk profile. We have a unique confluence of support and vision and leadership that enables us to do it now, which is why we're doing it now.
With NASA pivoting away from future versions of the Space Launch System rocket, like the Block 1B and Block 2, both of which would have required the more powerful exploration upper stage in development from Boeing, the agency also now no longer needs the Mobile Launcher 2, which is under construction near the vehicle assembly building at the Kennedy Space Center. For those who recall Isaacman's confirmation hearing, this upper stage change may not come as a huge surprise. The administrator said at the time, and since then, that the Space Launch System rocket is the fastest way to return Americans to the moon, but that changes would be needed eventually. He says the buy-in on this new shift was well received by lawmakers on Capitol Hill.
The fact that industry got behind this, I think, makes it very easy for our very supportive partners in Congress to get behind it. And honestly, they helped enable us in this regard through the Working Family Tax Cut Act, through the One Big Beautiful Bill. That is giving us the resources to be able to undertake this.
NASA Associate Administrator Amit Kshatriya says while all of these announced changes are for the future of the Artemis program, they're important for the crew of the Artemis II mission as well.
It's important that we talk a little bit about the Artemis II crew. This is for them also. When they get on top of that rocket, they need to know that they're doing it as part of a step, as part of a plan that's going to work. That they have said many times they're doing this mission so that their teammates can walk on the moon. They need to know that they're going to get on top of that rocket so that we're going to give them a plan for the rest of the team that's going to be assigned, that's going to go do this work to actually get to the moon. So our update today reinforces that commitment to them, that when we ask them to take that risk, when we take that risk together, that they're doing it for a reason.
As for the Artemis II mission itself, now that the vehicle is back in the VAB, work is underway to find the root cause of the helium flow issue. Teams worked overnight from February 25th to 26th to get the support platforms in place to begin the diagnostics as soon as possible. On Thursday, February 26th, NASA said its engineers narrowed the probable source of the helium issue to either a seal on the quick disconnect leading to the tubing to fill the ICPS with helium, or a check valve on the other end of that tubing.
Incredible amount of work already going on. The suspected system components for the helium flow will be removed, and they're going to undergo detailed inspections and assess the cause of the issue. We hope to get down to the root cause of that and make changes not just to the hardware but to our operational procedures so that we don't encounter the same issue again when we roll back out to the pad. In addition to determining the cause of the helium flow issue, the teams are also going to do a number of other things while we're in the VAB. We will replace the batteries in the flight termination system and conduct another end-to-end test to meet the Eastern Range safety requirements. We'll give the closeout crew another shot, another chance at closing out the Orion capsule, get them a little bit more practice in closing out the Orion crew module. And then also the seal on the tail service mast umbilical that supplies the liquid oxygen to the rocket before liftoff, that is also going to be replaced to ensure a tight configuration.
Well, NASA teams are working as quickly and efficiently as they can towards preservation of an April launch date. An official launch date won't be set until sometime in the future once all this work is done. Reporting inside the Vehicle Assembly Building at the Kennedy Space Center, Will Robinson-Smith for Spaceflight Now.